Hello everybody, welcome to Red Tool House, or as I'm referring to it here recently, the surface of the sun. We are going to try to combat this excessive heat we've been having for well over a month now, and the drought conditions that are paired with that, with some free water, some solar electric, to try to keep our garden thriving even in this nasty, nasty weather. So come along and sweat with me, if you will. So if you follow the channel this season, you know my lovely bride has been sweating and working her butt off. That is a really hot T-post. Holy moly. Yowza. Anyway, she's been working her butt off, tending this garden and really making it something special. What's combating that, or what's keeping that from being the best it can be, is this extreme heat we've been having. This is excessive for our area. This is not normal. We've been in the 90s since mid-June, with just a couple days of reprieve from time to time. Coupled with that, our specific area, right where we sit, has had very, very little rain. I think we've maybe had 1.25 inches over the last almost 60 days. And that's no bueno. That doesn't work well for us. This place is usually tropical rainforest by this time. And you can't really tell, everything's green, but it's a very dry green. It's getting very brittle. And for Kelly to keep the garden going, she has to pull a lot of water from our well, which obviously taxes the well this time with the dryness we've been having. But also runs up a lot of electricity. That 220 volt pump running constantly is quite excessive. So I'm going to work today to see if we can come up with a kind of a solution to still allow her to water her garden whenever she wants, use as much water as she wants, without having to worry about running the well dry, or, of course, jacking up the electric bill even more. The electric bill is going to be insane because of the air conditioning. So what I'm going to do is, utilizing this storage tank of water that's empty right now, we're going to put water in it from our creek, utilizing our battery banks that we've charged with the sun, solar panels. So the idea is to be net zero when it comes to the output of energy. The only really energy I'm going to expend, of course, is the diesel fuel to transport the water from the creek up to the garden. So the first thing we're going to do is secure this tank to the trailer. I'm not going to bolt it down per se, but I just want to keep it from moving around too much, because when it has that much water in it, it's going to want to slide off. It's going to want to do all kinds of crazy things. So I want to secure it here just a little bit ahead, maybe 60-40 of the axle. It's a 3,500 pound axle, so it should be able to handle this. I believe this is one of my smaller IBC totes, so I believe these are 250 or 275. So let's just say, for the sake of math and being safe, let's say 300 gallons. So 300 times 8 pounds per gallon is 2,400 pounds. So I definitely know the trailer can handle that. I'm pretty certain the tractor can handle that, even pulling up the steep driveway, but I want to get this fixed down so it doesn't take off on me. It's been quite a few years ago now that I rebuilt this trailer. In fact, it's starting to show its age again. But this white oak, 2-inch white oak that I milled for the deck boards and then coated it with Rotella oil. Used Rotella oil to really protect it. Watch how hard this stuff is. Drill has to think twice about going through both of those. White oak to white oak. Can't get this stupid thing started. Okay, so I don't think that's going to slide up or back. I could put a strap on it over top, but with 2,000 pounds of water in it, I don't think it's going to bounce much. So let's go put some water in it and see what we can do. All right, so this stream I'm driving over right now, yes, it is usually a stream, is bone dry. Nothing in it. So we can't pull from that. Usually I can pull right here from the outset of the culvert, but I got nothing. So I'm going to come over to you guys and check the hole that I use for when I would take care of our broiler chickens on pasture. That's where I pull the water up from for them. Alright, a little chink in the armor here. I don't believe we have 250, 300 gallons in there. Well, since that hole doesn't look like it can do what we need, I'm going to take my pump, my extension cord, and we're going to move downstream to where I have another nicer hole of water option. We'll see. This daggone stilt grass grows around everything. Look at that. It won't tear the grass. It'll pull the hose first. Hateful stuff. Okay, let's move on. All right, so this is Timber's swimming hole, and we've shown this before on video. I think you can see the root base of that sycamore clump. You can see how much exposed root there is. Usually the water level is right at the top of that root, and that's where Tim likes to swim because it's nice and deep, but not so deep now. But I think we got enough there that we can get our tank filled, maybe completely. Let's see. The beauty of this is, I think as we draw water, it will obviously continue to replenish itself since there's water upstream. We have a real gravel base, so it's going to trickle down. We'll just see if we pump more out than it comes in. So let's toss our bucket in. Brilliant. Jerked the rope right out of my hand. Let's try that again, boys and girls. Rather not fall in, but I don't know that I complain about it too much if I did. Sink. There we go. There we go. All right, so we're going to use our Veto Man. This is a 1,000-watt solar generator, I believe. And it's got a full charge. Charge it with the solar panels. Yep, full charge. So what we're going to do, other than get water all over myself, I don't want to stand down here the entire time it takes to fill this up. I want to get an idea of how quickly it can fill this IBC tote. Get an estimation off that based upon how quickly it can fill a 5-gallon bucket. So I'm going to need to borrow you guys, because you guys have my timer, and see how this goes. So we'll time how quickly this 5-gallon bucket gets filled, do the math, and then translate that to this. And I think this is 250, 275. I can't see the gradients on it. Usually they had gradients on them. Anyway, I know it's not my full size one, which is like 325, my big one that I have up at camp. Okay, I've got the stopwatch running, so we'll see how quickly this fills this bucket up. Okay, so I stopped my stopwatch, and that was 1 minute and 36 seconds. So, what does that tell us? So 5 gallons, 1 minute and 36 seconds. So it would take 50 5-gallon buckets to fill this up if it's 250. 275, of course, would add another 5 buckets. So let's just say 55 buckets is what we're going to go with. If you're wondering why my bucket's getting less and less water, it's actually created a siphon to draw back in this Pump does not have a check valve in it, so it's going to siphon that bucket dry. So 55 buckets at, well, let's shoot for the sake of easy math, let's say a minute and a half. So 55 in a minute and a half is 55 minutes plus another half of 55, which is 27 and a half. So that's just about an hour and a half. Now my Veto man says running this pump, it can run for 8.5 hours with the draw of this pump. So we should have plenty of time. So let's get this set to start filling up with water. First thing I'm going to do is lower our trailer down a little bit so we can fill even. Not crushing my bucket. There we go. Make sure my valve is closed, because that would be a drag. Yep. Take it from the top, baby. All right, so it is 1:40 in the afternoon. Let's get this turkey rolling. Yeah, so we're drawing 161 watts for that pump, which is telling me, yeah, 8.5, fluctuating between 8.5 and 8.4 hours it'll run. So that'll be plenty. This is not in the sun. If it gets too full, it's going to leak over the side, other side, so I can safely put that there. And I'm not just going to sit here and burn an hour and a half while that takes its time to fill up. I'm going to go do some other stuff. I know what time to come check back. I'll come back at 3 o'clock and see where we are. We should be full at 3 o'clock. So I'll bring you guys back with me. I want to give a shout out to this week's video sponsor, and that's VEVOR. We've featured a lot of their products, been happy with what we've gotten from them. This time they sent us an all teak, solid teak wood shower table that we used up at camp. Super simple to put together. And Kelly really likes it because she can lay out her shower accoutrements there without any issues. Beauty of the teak wood, of course, it can handle the weather, it can handle the water. And it was really, really neat little table. So I'm going to post a link below. You guys can check that out. Okay, so it's about 5 till 3. And I hear the pump still running. I don't know if you guys can see that water line, but she's almost full. And 84% left on my battery. Still getting good flow. So I think that's pretty accurate. I think my cup runneth over. All right, so she has a little bit of a gangster lean to it. Out of there so we don't get a siphon going. The opposite direction. Put on our lid. Now I need to yank the pump out of the creek. Still plenty of water in the creek. In fact, I expect it to kind of fill back up. So putting this rope on this handle comes in handy. Fish it out of the water easily. Let's just see how much tug we need. All right, so I was able to get that up here with no issues. nary a drop was spilled. We need to put more air in the tires. But yeah, I came up the driveway in low gear or low range second gear because I was just a little worried about it bogging down, and I did not want to lose steam that I have to come back off of that, because if I come back off of that, it's going to jackknife and it's going to get ugly. Makes for some good video, but it'd be ugly. So as you can see, the sun's bearing down right now in the backyard, really lighting up the garden heavy right now. So what I'm going to do is we're going to pause for a couple hours so we can get some shade on the garden, and then we'll start taking this water and putting it over shower. So let's go cool off for a bit. All right, so it's cooled down to a chilly 92 degrees, and the sun's off the garden at least. So we'll give this a go. Now the downside that I have to this is one of two tanks that I have that are Schultz tanks. And I don't know much about the different brands of IBC totes. I wish I knew more, because what I am finding is these outlets, that it requires different adapters. So I have, for the blueberries, I have a, what's it called? It's called a stainless, L-E-Z, not stainless. And it requires, or it has the an outlet that a simple 2-inch PVC will screw right onto. And then I have another brand down at the workshop that I've had forever, and it's more of a coarse thread, and I even found an adapter for it on Amazon a long time ago. But I've yet to figure out how to find something to adapt to that. None of the PVC fittings work, nothing like that. So it's a bit of a pain in the butt. So we're going to have to try to get a siphon going. I've got my floating pump that I've used forever. My goodness, I've had this thing for several years and run the heck out of it. So we have to prime it. And then that pump, because it's so potent, it needs about, I think it needs about 10 to 13 amps to get that water going. It's like an air conditioner. It needs that heavy run to get the water flowing, but once it's flowing, it doesn't take that much of a draw. So my Veto Man that I use to pump the water in won't work because it's too small. So we're going to our 3000 watt that has, it claims to have 20 amp capability, and I don't know. I sometimes doubt that. What would be nice is if the opening to these tanks were big enough that I could just put my pump that I have down in the creek, or actually right here behind that I used in the creek, down in there. But I haven't been able to find one that small a diameter. Of course, I hate to cut up the IBC tote. So we're going to see if this works. I'm going to get my sprinkler set up here and my hose set up first, and then we'll get the thing primed. Stupid wood roach was still alive. Now he's in my pump. He's in for a ride of his life. Okay, moment of truth. Yeah, she did it. Oh, I see water. I'll do this without ruining my mic. I think I need to elevate my sprinkler. I may move my little stool over there. Let's try that. Get enough siphon without even the pump on. Well, let's get the water going. Right on the phone. A little too much. Now that looks downright majestic. Okay, so at this rate, she's pulling 650 watts, which is pretty good. And according to this, I've got about 2 hours, an hour and 54 minutes to run. And the rate that tank is going down, I got less time in water, I believe. She's throwing a lot of water. So Kelly has a wand attachment too, so I could obviously just put the wand on and she could go through and wand water that. Trying to find something that was a little more automated for her, so she doesn't have to be out in the evenings in all this heat. And, and one of the benefits of doing this, I mentioned, drawing the well dry, the electricity it takes to run the pump this long. But also one thing that's benefit for the plants is this water is much, much warmer, especially since it's been in this IBC tote over the afternoon. This water is much, much warmer, so it's not super cold. You think about what comes out of our well, it's about 53 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's brisk. And sometimes it can shock the plants, especially in this heat that we've been having. So it's a benefit to the plants to have this warmer water cast on it. All right, I think we'll move that to a different spot. See if we can get a little more even coverage. There's really a lawn sprinkler, so of course it's going to have some issues reaching things, but it is pretty good coverage. All the tomatoes look like they've gotten a pretty good soaking. But let's get back here to the pumpkins. Do this without knocking the camera over. Let's try to. I want to see something that's an absolute tragedy. This weed barrier cloth we got from Sam's, and it is garbage. I mean, it hadn't even lasted 2 months in the sun. You can see it there where it's fraying. And I thought maybe it was just rubbing against the wood. But here, it's just been lying. We haven't planted anything there, and look how much it's come up. Just shreds. The cats walk across it, and it's like anywhere their little toe prints go, it disintegrates. So we've been running for probably 10 minutes total. I probably should have set a timer just to make sure, but I've turned it off and on, of course, and repositioned the sprinkler a little bit. This also is a good indicator of just how much water you need to soak a garden, and how much you take for granted water that falls out of the sky. Because that, like I said, is 200, found the gradients, is 275 gallons to the very, very top. So we were probably 265. So 265 gallons, I'm probably going to take this down to half full. So what is that? That's 132 and a half. So that's a lot of water. And if I think about pulling that out of our well, the taxing on our well, and of course the taxing on our electric bill, which just keeps getting more and more expensive. So I like putting it on top of the trellis there. That's our cucumber trellis. And that gets almost into the pumpkins, but really takes care of the front. In fact, it even gets my deer attacked plum trees here that are still barely making it. It's getting some water to them. Even her flowers in the front, the sunflowers, my elderberries, which she hates in the garden. She doesn't hate them, she just hates the fact that they're in the garden. Yeah, I think we're getting some good coverage here. Looks like we got about 5 more minutes and we'll be down at half. Halfway should be, yeah, halfway should be about right here. All right, so I think we got to put this in the wind column. This is a not very labor intensive. As I mentioned, or as you saw, just setting the pump up, letting it go, checking the timer and the flow rate, and know when to come back and get it. Transporting it up here, hooking up my stuff. I guess that was probably the biggest labor expense, was just hooking things up. But being able to put 275 gallons of water on the garden when it really, really needs it like it does now is going to be very helpful. And I think I'm almost to the point where we're going to stop that will give Kelly another run to be able to water her garden if we don't get rain. We're nothing over 40% chance for the next week, so looks like we're still in a dry spot. I think our hole of water down at the creek will hang out for a while. The elevation drop upstream is pretty substantial, so I still think there's water coming down. So I think we'll have that hole to draw from for at least another couple weeks if we don't get any significant rain. Probably the biggest delay will, of course, just be recharging the battery packs by solar. Now, as you guys know, those battery packs can be charged by plugging them into AC. So if it really came down to a time crunch, then I could do that. But I like the idea of trying to do all of this as minimal cost as possible. Obviously, the equipment that we have here was all that big outlay of expense. But being able to collect the water and spread the water with very little inputs is kind of neat. I like that challenge. Since we moved to raised beds, at some point we'll actually put in drip irrigation, soaker hoses, drip lines, all those type of things, since we kind of know where our beds are going to be next year. That's the thing, we keep moving them around as we try to figure out the best layout for this garden. So I think next year we'll be able to put even a more permanent element in. And if we go to drip, then I just got to figure out how to get that water up on the mountain, or of course just putting more tanks in for rain catchment so I don't have to transport any of this stuff. That's the goal to hopefully get to. Well, comment below and let me know what you guys think. There's 6,000 ways to skin this cat, but I'd like to hear from you all as well. Well, I pray y'all have a great week. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.